Hello, everyone. Dr. Vicky here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center. We're going to look at the astrology of June. We'll go over just the general astrology of June and then into more specific details, uh, I believe the first 2 weeks. But we'll see. I don't want this to go too long. So it might be the first week, it might be the first 2 weeks. So let me share my screen here. All right. So we have a picture here of Stonehenge, and this is on summer solstice because, of course, June is when we move into the summer season. Just a quick review on the vibrations for June. We're in a 9 universal year vibration. I speak about this every month. The 9 is the energy that completes and unfolds endings of a cycle from 1 to 9. In this vibration, um, it is this vibration that understands universal love for all of mankind and an impersonal view of life. Um, it is associated with the Hermit card in the tarot. And the Hermit is a light in the darkness, and certainly haven't we felt like we've been in the dark. He lights the way for all seekers. He is the guide. He is the guide, but conveys the message that each one of us walks the path alone. And so this can feel, to a certain extent, like somewhat of a lonely year. But really, it's about sharing your wisdom for those who need it. But it's also, it is in a way a year when you do have to concentrate on what you want to let go in this particular year. And with the Hermit being associated with the sign of Virgo, and Virgo being the sign of the South Node, um, even the South Node says, "Let it go, let it go, let it go." Perhaps reasons the need to be perfect, which is very much a Virgo thing. It is the 20th path on the Tree of Life, which is the intelligence of the will. It connects the Sephiroth of Mercy here, which is also the Sephiroth of Jupiter and the Sephiroth of the Sun. And of course, this month we actually have both the Sun and Jupiter move from Gemini to Cancer. Jupiter does it much earlier than the Sun. Of course, the Sun does it on the solstice. But Jupiter in Cancer is a good thing. And it only happens every 12 years. So let's make the most of that one. The knowledge of the hermit is that you create your world with your own hands. We look at the universal month. We look at the month vibration. June is the 6th month. And of course, the 6 is the lovers in the tarot. 6 is a vibration of service and responsibility, the humanitarian. In fact, both 6 and 9 are the vibrations of love. 6 is much more of a personal love, and and 9 is a more impersonal love. But love on all counts this month. Says not only are you a humanitarian, but you're a caretaker. 6 is serious and responsible, and this and is the provider for the race, motivated by a sense of duty to his or her fellow man, finding joy in service. So this is a way that you can spend your time this month. You say, well, what can I do? Well, the world's gone crazy. What can I do? You can be of service to anybody. You could be of service to your neighbor. Make sure that if you have an elderly neighbor or something, make sure that they have the food that they need, or maybe they need their lawn mowed, or some sort of random act of kindness to a stranger. All of it counts. All of it counts. We are our brother and sisters keepers. This path, the 6th path, sits between Mina, which is the Sephiroth of Saturn. Saturn is now in Aries for the first time in 29 years or so. And the Sun, again, we're connected to the Sun. So both of these paths, the 9 and the 6, connect to the Sun. It is associated with the lovers in the tarot. The lovers represent the sword that slashes down through the cosmos, separating the whole of us into discrete forms. It's associated with the sign of Gemini, and Gemini is duality. It's duality. The sword distributes gender and polarity throughout the universe, creating a tension of opposites. Can we feel the tension? This month, the Sun, Mercury, and Jupiter are all moving through the sign of Gemini. Jupiter exits Gemini on the 9th, not to return for another 11 years. This is the 17th path on the Tree of Life, the separating or disposing intelligence, connecting the Sephiroth of understanding to the Sephiroth of beauty, Bina being the Sephiroth of understanding, and Tiphareth being the Sephiroth of beauty. And it is the Lover's card, and the Lover's card is, above all, a card of choice. A card of choice. So we will have choices to make this year, this month. And if we take those two vibrations together, we get the Devil card. Yes, the Devil. And it's also a 6. The thing about 9 universal years is that the base number for the month and year is going to be the same as the number for the month, because anything you add to 9, it's like the 9 disappears, right? Okay, so the 15-6 has a deep inner knowing, and you must never disregard your own intuitive feelings. Here we have the magnetic ability to pull forces to you. So there's a lot of magnetic attraction with this. And of course, what do you want to attract to yourself? You want to attract to yourself the good things. And so this is an energy of manifestation. It's located here on the Tree of Life between the Sephiroth of the Sun and the Sephiroth of Mercury. Notice that Mercury is going to move through 3 signs, or partially move through 3, so completely move through Cancer, but partially. It starts in Gemini, moves out of Gemini relatively quickly, then goes into Cancer, and then quickly moves into Leo. Okay. Um, it is so the 15-6 associated with the Devil card and the Tarot, so you can see here on the right. This path, you must overcome your attachment to the limitations of your mind. It does connect Hod, which is associated with Mercury and the mind, to the heart. Um, you must overcome the limitations of your mind, which say there is only darkness. Overcoming fear and meeting the shadow. So we will have some fear to deal with this month, but fear is a lower vibrational state. Fear can only happen in the lower tree here. It can't happen in the upper tree. This is the heart. Fear, there's fear and there's love, and love trumps fear because love is a higher vibration. And so when you get mostly fearful, which is easy enough to do, especially if you watch the news, is to move it into your heart, move into your heart, find a way and find a space in your mind where you are counting your blessings, right? You say, "Oh, this is terrible," but look to see where you're at in that moment, even if it's a moment by moment existence. The other thing about being in the moment and being in gratitude is it brings you to the center of the tree, which is where Tiphareth and the heart is located. Okay, it is associated with the sign of Capricorn. And this month, the Earth moves through Capricorn. You're like, the Earth moves through Capricorn. What does that mean? Well, whatever sign the sun is in, the Earth that you're standing on is in the opposite sign. And so we are standing on Capricorn in May. As soon as the sun moves into Cancer, we're standing on the Earth that is Capricorn. The 26th path on the Tree of Life is called the Renewing Intelligence, and it mediates, as I said, between Tiphareth, which is higher consciousness, and Hod, which is the thinking mind. The mystery here is that God and the devil are revealed by reflection. As humanity changes, so do the concepts of the God and the devil. Faith and science must work together, holding a sublime balance to produce a new reality for humankind. All right, so those are the vibrations. Now let's take a quick look at the astrology. Things don't really get started this month until the 4th, when Venus makes a waning sextile to Jupiter. These are Venus Jupiter sextiles opens the lines of communication. It's a very social energy, and it is waning, so it means that Venus and Jupiter are coming to the end of a cycle. They have a year-long synodic cycle. And so Jupiter is expansion, and Venus is love and what we value. So we've had an expansion of those things, and now we've come to a point where we've had a lot of experience, and we get to share our understanding of that experience with each other to help build a better and stronger society, actually. On Thursday, Mercury makes a sextile to Mars. This is mind and action working together. On the 6th, Venus ingresses into Taurus. That's the 6-6 portal, by the way. Venus ingressing into Taurus is like Venus is coming home. Venus has been out in the world. She's been she had her retrograde cycle that started in Aries. She retrograded all back into Pisces. She came back up out of the waters of Pisces into Aries, all ready to take on the world. And she has been taking on the world in her Aries regalia, the energy of the energy of the Xena warrior princess, perhaps we could call it, right? Okay, now she's coming to the garden gate, and she's taking off her armor, and she's putting on her gardening gloves, and she's sitting in the energy of Taurus. Taurus is about stability and peace. And so there's a sense of stability and peace. There's a sense of sort of coming home, but also still standing its ground, right? Venus still stands its ground. Venus will still stand its ground for what it loves, and it loves its garden. Okay. On the 8th, we have Mercury ingress into Cancer. Remember, I said Mercury has a little time in Gemini, then moves into Cancer. And of course, Mercury is, well, first of all, it's the ruler of the South Node at this time, because the South Node is in Virgo. And Cancer is emotional. So we're going to have to be letting go of some emotions, some feelings, some maybe attachments that you have to certain stories, especially stories that keep you in sadness, or loss. Maybe it's time to let go of those. Maybe it's time for us to see the value of the losses we have maintained or we have experienced, because everything is a lesson and nothing happens for no reason. But then with Mercury in Cancer also, we're much more emotional. We're much more sensitive. Mercury in Cancer is disposited by the moon. So we will find that the way we take in information every 2.5 days will change depending on the sign of the moon. On the 9th, Mercury makes a first quarter square to Saturn. This is a crisis in action square. We may feel held back. We may feel like our voice isn't being heard, or we're being held back by authority for what we want to say and what we want to express. We also have Venus making a first quarter square to Pluto. This is a crisis in action as well, taking action on what you desire, Pluto. But it isn't the easiest of energies. Venus and Pluto have a very intense relationship. And squares generally bring about crisis. So we might see some crisis in relationship on the 9th. And then we have Venus ingressing into Cancer. Now, Venus ingresses into Cancer before it squares Pluto, right? No, wait, hold on. Venus into Cancer. So Venus in, yeah, I think that happens first. Okay, that's in the wrong order. We also have Mercury making a first quarter square to Neptune on that day. The reason that it's making a first quarter square to Neptune on the same day it makes a first quarter square to Saturn is because Neptune and Saturn are moving together. They're both in Aries. They're very close. They don't conjoin until next February, but they're very, very close. So it's acting like a conjunction, which brings about power. But it's also at the end of a cycle of those two planets that started back in 1989, I believe. So that cycle is coming to an end. So this conjunction between Neptune and Saturn is not on the side of building things, but it's on the side of letting go. So more energy around letting go. On the 11th, we have a full moon at 21 degrees of Sagittarius. That is the degree of Donald Trump's moon. So this full moon is right on his axis, right on his nodal axis. Always, whenever your nodal axis gets activated, there's always some fateful thing to happen. We'll see what happens with that. It's possible that something from the past will be illuminated at this time. We also have Mercury sextiling Venus. This is nice, the planet of communication and the planet of relationship in a helpful, mentally stimulating aspect. So this is a time, if say when Venus squared Pluto and I'm not getting my needs met and this actual Mercury Venus sextile, a few days later, might help to uh, for us to understand each other. It's like the emotions move away, the emotions move out of it, and we get to actually think about it. So I would say don't make any sudden moves in your relationships. Unless of course it's for your better. If it's for your interest to leave, because Pluto and Venus can be, power over, it can be abusive relationships. These people who want to have, you want to know everything you're doing and everywhere you are, that kind of stuff. Don't delay to get out of that for sure. But if it's a fluff up in a relatively stable relationship, I'd say give yourself a couple of days and talk about it. On the 15th, we have probably the most difficult aspect happening this month, and that is Mars squaring Uranus. It is a last quarter crisis in consciousness square. This is a natural rebellious energy, but whenever we're dealing with Mars aggression, pointy objects, projectiles, swords, guns, weapons, and Uranus sudden out of nowhere, it's always fraught. Ultimately, this energy is to break us free, and to make us aware of perhaps where we've been held back, where we've been, but I would suggest to be very cautious around this time. Now, this is the day after it's the day after Flag Day. It's the day after Trump's birthday. He's going to have this Mars Uranus square in his chart all year because it'll be part of his solar return. And it's very it's not really pleasant. But and so he's even more unpredictable than normal, but it's also unpredictable things can happen to him as well. So it goes both ways, but it's not pleasant. Let's put it that way. On the 15th, I said that. On the 17th, Mars moves ingresses into Virgo. Mars has been in Leo, my way or the highway Leo. When Mars moves into Virgo, things calm down a little bit. We get a little bit more mental and using our brains mental. Well, I guess we could get mental the other way too. But the Mars in Virgo is more careful. Mars in Leo can be rather bombastic, but in Virgo, but it can also be very critical. So, there's a what is that called? There's a trade-off here. But Mars in Virgo is really good for digging into things, looking at the details, bottom line stuff, adding things up. It's a good auditing energy, actually. On the 18th, we have Jupiter making a first quarter square to Neptune. Now, this is part of a synodic cycle that is a larger synodic cycle, a cycle between conjunction to conjunction. And the last time we had a conjunction was just a few years ago. I believe it was 2022 when these two planets conjoined in the sign of Pisces. And Jupiter and Neptune rules Pisces, and Jupiter is also a ruler of Pisces before they discovered Neptune. So it was a very Piscean conjunction, and it was in the latter degrees of Pisces where the North Node has been in, and Saturn and Neptune have been floating around for a little while now. Now they're in Aries, but they're going to go back into Pisces again. So they're not quite done with Pisces yet. But this square that we have now is the crisis in action based on the seeds planted back in 2022. We may see, um, this may have something to do with Ukraine. Ukraine. We just had a big attack by Ukraine, a drone attack on the Russian, I guess their Air Force. I don't know, their planes. And I think they sort of wiped out at least a third of the planes. And these are the planes that have been bombing Ukraine. So it's it's a defensive motion, a defensive action. Ukraine really only does defensive things, and they don't like shoot at hospitals and where they pick military targets, which is not what Russia does, and has been doing for a long time. Yes, the people of Aleppo. And then on the 20th, the sun ingresses into Cancer. That's the first day of summer. On the 22nd, Mars sextiles Jupiter. This is nice. It is a waxing sextile, so it opens the lines of communication. Mars is action, Jupiter is expansion. But it can also be an expansion of, because we're dealing with Mars, um, something, and Jupiter is faraway places, so it can be an increase in fighting or something like that. On the 23rd, Mars makes an inconjunct to Pluto. This is uncomfortable. This requires some adjustment. It's very easy to miss the mark with this. So if we do get involved, or anybody gets involved, because not just us, right? It could be anywhere on the planet gets involved in war of some sort, or retribution or something like that, they could actually not hit the target at this time. We also have the sun making a first quarter square to Neptune. Anytime the sun and Neptune come together where it's not a trine or it's not a sextile, there's confusion. So we're not seeing clearly. There's definitely an energy of not seeing clearly with the sun squaring Neptune and Mars in conjuncting Pluto. On the 24th, Jupiter makes a waxing in conjunct to Pluto. The sun makes a waxing in conjunct to Pluto. Jupiter makes a waxing in conjunct to Pluto, and the sun makes a waxing in conjunct to Pluto. And then the sun and Jupiter conjoin at 4 degrees of Cancer. So we have these inconjuncts from Pluto to the sun and Jupiter. So again, it's unclear. There's an unclear. Whereas the Sun Jupiter conjunction is actually kind of a good thing, because Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, and so it does bring sort of this energy of aid and the like. We might see more aid coming into places like Gaza or the Sudan or someplace that we need it, but it's not going to be direct. There's like an indirectness and not quite right energy with that. On the 25th, we have a new moon at 5 degrees of Cancer. This is interesting because the Sabian symbol is an automobile wrecked by a train, and it says, respecting karma, the collective will of the community has power to bring destruction to an individual out of alignment with their destiny. Now, that could be us in relation to the 47th president. That could be Russia in relationship to Putin. That could be something to do with Elon Musk there, right? Because he is, I believe his sun is at 5 degrees of Cancer. So any of those people can be this uh, person who is stopped by the collective. On the 26th, Mercury makes a sextile to Uranus. It is an opening sextile, so it opens the lines of communication. Mercury is our lower mind, Uranus is our higher mind. So we're getting information from higher vibrational sources at this time, which is going to come as a relief because it's the week before was such like a quite frankly a shit show. Okay, on we also have the Sun making a waning sextile to Mars. Again, those sextiles open the lines of communication. It is waning, so there is a certain amount of the knowledge we have accrued gets disseminated or distributed, so that we have a better understanding of what's going on. In other words, I feel like right around the time the sun ingresses into Cancer, those days after, there'll be a lot of confusion. But when we get into the Thursday, I think things will start to clear up a bit. Mercury ingresses into Leo at that time. And so it's less emotional and more creative. On the 27th, Mercury makes a trine to Saturn. This is a waxing trine. Mercury is the mind and how the mind works, and Saturn brings stability. So there's a stabilizing force to the mind here. It also makes a waxing trine to Neptune, right? Because they're moving together. But again, trines between Mercury and Neptune are sort of psychic trines, and so we're gonna both get the skinny Saturn, the information, the data, the reality of the situation, along with information from more spiritual places at this time. And then we end the month with Mercury opposing Pluto, which can be information that brings on a power struggle, or we become aware, we get information about a power struggle that perhaps we didn't have before. It is part of the Mercury Pluto synodic cycle, which is a 2 year, no, a 1 year cycle. And I believe the conjunction occurred at the first degree of Aquarius. Um, and so we come to a point where whatever was seated at that time, and it would have been seated at the beginning of the year, something comes to fruition, and we see what the soul seated, the soul being Pluto, seated Mercury, the mind. So at the conjunction, the mind was seated by the soul, and by the end of June, we have an idea of what that means. Okay. All right, so hopefully this isn't taking too long. All right, so I have some charts here that we can look at. All right, so we start with Wednesday, right? Wednesday the 4th. Hold on. I'm gonna move some stuff. We have Venus making a waning sextile. Here's Venus in Aries making the sextile to Jupiter in Gemini. It is a sextile of progressive change and humanitarian endeavors. Venus at 29 of Aries, tuning into the sounds of the universe in a sextile, so the communication to Jupiter at 29 of Gemini, the joy of a fresh start, the joy of a fresh start. So these are pretty nice energies here. On the 5th, Mercury makes a sextile to Mars. Okay. Here's Mercury, here's Mars. So we have this like little mini, almost like mini grand trine, even though it's not a grand trine, it's a trine and two sextiles. But a lot can happen with this. A lot of things happen. A lot of things can get resolved. So there is some resolution with this energy. The vibrations for the day, the 4th is the 19-1, which is illumination, the sun. And then on the 5th, we're waking up to something further illumination, perhaps. This is when Venus ingresses into Taurus on the 6th, the sign of its rulership, the first Sabian symbol for the first degree of Taurus, a clear mountain stream, authentic self-expression, pure innocence, spontaneity as a way of life. And this is the Empress here. This is the path that gets activated Venus moves in. This is the path of Venus, and now Venus is in Taurus. This is the Sephiroth of Venus. We have Taurus there. The day is a world day, and that's right here. So there's all these energies of giving birth to something. You're giving birth to something on this day. Um, and so all our intuitions, this is the path that connects Hukma to Bina, and it's located energetically in the third eye. So we're all being given the sight, and it's practical, and it's pragmatic, and it's real, and it's earthy. On the 8th, we have Mercury conjunct Jupiter at 30 degrees of Gemini. Where are we here? Oh, here we go. So these Mercury Jupiter conjunctions occur once a year, and this one is actually happening in the last degree of Gemini. So it really brings in that Gemini energy. The start of the annual Mercury Jupiter synodic cycle. The Sabian symbol, bathing beauties, exemplification, choosing the best sets, uh, choosing the best sets a standard for people to aspire towards and accept as a defining quality of community values, choosing standards in order to express your values. So this Mercury Jupiter conjunction on the 8th of June suggests that we hold ourselves to our highest values. You want to have something to aspire to. And so go to your highest values. Is your highest values humanitarianism? Is it compassion? Is it whatever it is you need to go to your highest value and hold that space and hold that space. This is a chart for the US. And we have um, a Libra rising. And we have this conjunction occurring in the ninth house, which is the house of justice. So there can be some justice um, indication here, or something around justice, or the right use of justice. We'll see. We'll see how that pans out. Um, all right. So let's continue. On the 8th, Mercury ingresses into Cancer. The Sabian symbol on a ship, a sailor lowers an old flag and raises a new one. It is about like shifting, what's the word I'm looking for? Shifting um, allegiances. This is an energy of shifting allegiances. Whenever anything moves into the sign, a new sign, I always look to see what the ruler of that sign is doing. And in the case of Cancer, we're looking at the moon. The moon is at 23 degrees of Leo. Interestingly enough, it is the same degree as the full moon in May. So you can go back to May. There'll be a confluence here. Um, the full moon in May. It says a bunny metamorphosing into a fairy, transforming our baser instincts. And it is going to be in Cancer from the 8th to the 26th. So we have Mercury in Cancer from the 8th to the 26th. And remember, when we every couple of days, the moon will shift signs, and so will the way we take information. At the conjunction, which sort of, I guess, overlays, like there's an influence of that throughout the whole time that Mercury is in Cancer. We have that Scorpio energy, which is deep and probing, right? It's not, it's bottom line. There's no hiding from Scorpio energy. Scorpio will find you. All right. On the 9th, Jupiter ingresses into Cancer. And again, whenever a planet ingresses into a new sign, especially the slower moving planets, we look to see what the ruler of that sign is doing. And now the moon is at 4 degrees of Sagittarius. So it has moved into Sagittarius. So the Jupiter energy, as opposed to the Mercury energy when it's in Cancer and Scorpio, emotion, deep emotions, right? So our feeling mind is working overtime this month, whereas Jupiter in Cancer for the pretty much it's a year long, as Jupiter moves through Cancer in a year. Interesting that the moon, when that happens, is in the sign of Sagittarius, which means that, um, let's see, what does that mean? Well, Sagittarius, of course, is Jupiter's ruling sign. So it's as if it's mutual reception here. There's a mutual reception. Jupiter ingresses into Cancer, an old ship. On a ship, the sailors lower the old flag and raise the new, right? The change of allegiance here. The moon at 4 of Sag, a little child learning to walk, support and guidance. There's always someone to help, being open to kindness and helpfulness. So as Jupiter moves through Cancer, we need to, and of course, Jupiter has this energy anyway. Jupiter in Cancer is there to help. I'm hoping that this means that things in Gaza are going to get much better for them. I mean, you'd like to say they can't get much worse, but if there's one thing that Netanyahu knows how to do is make a terrible thing even more terribler. So uh, I'm hoping that this Cancer energy will bring some ease and comfort and support for those who so desperately need it, especially the fact that they need food and water. So let's hope for that. On the 11th, we have that full moon in Sagittarius. This full moon actually squares its own nose. So we have this giant X here. The full moon at 21 of Sag, the Sabian symbol, a child and a dog wearing borrowed eyeglasses, walking in the shoes of a master. By copying the behavior and ideas of an awakened being, we are likelier to awaken ourselves. So it depends on who you aspire to be like. You want to choose people who are going to expand your view, who are going to expand your understanding of things, right? As opposed to following a more sort of narrow-minded, narrow, maybe even rabbit hole kind of energy. Stay out of the rabbit holes. The only thing that should be in a rabbit hole is a rabbit. Um, so receiving guidance from a true master in opposition to the sun at 21 of Gemini, Sabian symbol, a labor demonstration, outburst. It is healthier to release pent-up emotions rather than to continue repressing them, allowing an outburst of pent-up feelings. And so we are aspiring, and yet we also have the right to uh, say what needs to be said, right? Like if you are upset about something, your voice needs to be heard about it. Says the ruler of both signs involved in the opposition, Jupiter, Moon, and Mercury, the Sun, are conjunct in Cancer, with Jupiter at 1 of Cancer and Mercury at 5. So the ruler of the Gemini sun is Mercury. The ruler of the Sag moon is Jupiter, and they are in a conjunction to each other. So this is all very deep emotional stuff. Plus, it squared the nodes of the moon. The nodes of the moon are always deep emotional things. It's also a crossroads. And so we could actually see something fated happen at this time. Uh, it could be a leader. It could be a leader steps off the the whole dais of the leader, right? We'll see. It could happen anywhere. It could happen with anyone. So Mercury sextiling Venus, be open to receiving new information and insights, even if they challenge your current perceptions. Learning something new can be transformative, offering a fresh perspective that enhances your understanding. So we need to be open to new ideas, and even perhaps in some levels, the things that we would vehemently against, if we can sort of step back from them and look at them in a larger context, perhaps we can understand some things that we didn't understand before. Ask yourself what new knowledge or skills could enrich your life and broaden your horizons. I got that directly from Astromatrix, which is a great astrology website. So yeah, so we have interestingly enough, where is it? We have Mercury sextile Venus. We also have a grand trine with Chiron and the moon and Mars. Chiron and Mars trine, that is powerful. It's powerful for healing, but it's also powerful. You know, Chiron can be the wound or it can be the healing balm to the wound. And you can act out of your Chiron either from the healed part or from the wounded part. So just because it's connecting to Chiron doesn't mean it's going to heal. Just because it's connected to Chiron, it doesn't mean it's not going to heal. Again, it's always a choice. It's always a choice. And on the 17th, Mars, which has been in Leo, as I said previously, Leo is my way or the highway. It can be bombastic, but it can be dramatic. It can be very brave. There's a lot of courage that comes with that Leo Mars. Now it moves into Virgo, and it just moves from a different place. Virgo is more of a mind thing because it's a Mercury ruled sign as opposed to Venus, which is a sun ruled thing, which can be pure ego, as we see with the president of the United States, who has Mars in uh, Leo, or it can be a courageous thing. It can be a heartfelt thing. It can be like so. Again, it all depends on how you choose to use the energy. The energy does not dictate your choice. The energy dictates the way it's most likely to express itself, but what side of the aisle you want is you. You make that choice. So the first degree of Virgo, a man's head. That's it, a man's head. Learning what is significant. So in Virgo, we come to understand what is significant. It's after Leo. Leo has all these great ideas, and Leo has all this creative self-expression. Once Mars moves into Virgo, Mars says, okay, well, here's all these great ideas. Let's see which ones are workable. Let's see which ones are workable. So if you can think of that while Mars goes through Virgo. I like when Mars is in Virgo because I have a Mars. That's my Mars. My Mars is in Virgo. And so I'm going to have, me and my husband actually will have our Mars return. I'll have it in June. He may have to wait until July for his. Okay. The way in which we are unique can best be understood by grasping the significance of exactly where we are and why we are, learning what is significant in our lives. Now, Mercury excuse me, Mercury. Virgo is a Mercury rule sign. I just gave my next thing, right? I said it. Is a Mercury rule sign. So we look to see where Mercury is. Oh, it's in Cancer. Feelings. At 16 of Cancer, a man studying a mandala in front of him with the help of a very ancient book, profound self-understanding. So we're learning what is significant by understanding ourselves. How about that? We need to learn how to understand, acknowledge, and willingly embrace all the various parts of our nature, embracing all parts of our nature. So even the stuff we don't like, even the stuff we don't like. And remember, the South Node is in Virgo. And so Mars eventually will be conjoining that South Node. Not this month. That's probably not going to happen until next month because the nodes move backwards. So they start at 30 and they move back, and the planets start at 1 and move to 30. So there'll be passing ships in the night at some point, but not for a while. Mars will be in Virgo from June 17th through August 6th. During this time, the planet Mercury will be moving through Cancer and Leo. We do have next month a Mercury retrograde, and it's all in Leo. In fact, the whole month of July, Mercury, the planet of communication, is in Leo, the sign of creative self-expression, but it also has a retrograde cycle in that period. So it's going to be moving forward, and then it retrogrades and goes back, and then it moves forward. All of that's going to happen in Leo. So, but that's next month. We're not going to worry about next month right now. says Mercury and Mars are making a waning semi-square to each other. This is the point of the synodic cycle where Mercury, the mind, is surrendering to the instincts of Mars. This is a point of extracting meaning from the Mercury-Mars synod that began in 2023 and 24 with 3 exact conjunctions of Mercury and Mars. So this is the end of sort of a synodic cycle between these. Not quite done because Mercury has to move and make that conjunction to Mars. But this is the last part of that particular synodic cycle. There's somebody like right outside doing some weed whacking. Hopefully it's not getting in the, hopefully you're not hearing it. I can hear it, but sometimes I don't think you can hear it. And if you can, I apologize. It's my neighbor. Can't do anything about it. All right. What do we have here? All right. Do I want to get into this? Let me just, I might save this for the next time. Well, I guess I should do this. All right. So this is the last thing I'm going to talk about. It's the 18th. And on the 19th, oh wait, sorry. I'm looking at the wrong month. Apologies. Um, I think I'm going to leave it right here. I'm going to leave it here. So this is so this video is from the 1st to the 17th, and then I'll do a second video from the 17th to the end of the month. So, all right. So that's the story, Morning Glories. I think that's enough. I filled your head with all kinds of stuff. Let me exit here. Plus the sound of the weed whacker is giving me a headache, so that's never good. Okay, let's stop the share. Maybe. Oh, hi. I go from being really small to being really big. All right, now that I'm really big, so that's the first 17 days of May. I'll put out the next 17 days in about a week. That'll include a square between Jupiter and Neptune, which is part of a larger synodic cycle, and the sun moving into Cancer. But we'll do that next time. So remember, take care of yourself, please. Self-care is so very important. The energy at this time is very disruptive. There's a lot of things going by the wayside. You just, if you have no control over things, let it go. Let it go. Do apply your energy where it best serves you and your community and your values. But beyond that, you have to let everything else go because otherwise, there are certain things going down the drain now, and you don't want to go down the drain with it. Okay? All right. Hopefully this was helpful. Take care, everyone. Much love to you all. Thank you for my subscribers. Thank you to my members on my membership on YouTube. Thank you to my Patreon folk. And thank you to all of you who have stuck around this long. Take care, everyone. Namaste.